So out on a call for no cool, and we got this gas pack unit here. This is going to be a video on swapping out a condenser fan motor, but do want to give you some insight into why we're doing that. So when I called for cool, the fan was not spinning, but the compressor was running and the blower fan's running. We've already checked that, and the capacitor for it's a dual capacitor, was reading within its tolerance, which was 5 microfarads. It was reading 4.98, and on this data label for this motor, yeah, it does take a 5 microfarad capacitor, so that is correct size. And this motor's getting hot, so we're going to swap it out. First off, you want to verify that the power's off. I've already done that with my voltmeter. If you don't know how to do that, I've got some videos on that. We're not going to cover every little detail of how to do everything in every video. I'm going to assume that you know how to make sure power's off, how to check a capacitor, that sort of thing, how to check amp draw. So, motor that's in here is a 1075 RPM. It's a third of a horse, and this motor here, I like to carry these because they work on just about everything. Doesn't matter what the manufacturer is, but this will do anywhere from a 1/6 to a 1/3 horsepower at 1075 RPM, 208, 230 volt, takes a 10 microfarad cap and draws 1.8 amps. I've been doing this almost 20 years. You know, I've never had any issues putting in a motor like this in the place of something, you know, from the manufacturer. As long as the RPM matches, the horsepower is within the range, and you've got your microfarad, your capacitor, 10 microfarad for this or whatever it indicates, and you install it the way the directions say, and you got your reversing wire, so it'll go clockwise or counterclockwise. You can save yourself some, you can save yourself some time and the customer some money by not having to make a trip to the part house every time you need something. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. First we got to take the shroud off, and this unit's got the cage that holds the fan motor, and then there's a shroud here that you don't have to take out unless you want to. I'm going to go under here and disconnect these fan wires. There's actually a plug. Then a little bit of PB Blaster. There's not any of the shafts sticking out. I brought some emery cloth over. It's like a sandpaper cloth. It's perforated. You can get all the rust off of the shaft if it's exposed. And then I like PB Blaster. You can use Aero Coil. Man, there's all kinds of stuff. You can use brake fluid from what I've seen. Give that a second just set. Loosen these set screws. Again, assuming you know which direction tightens and loosens nuts and screws and bolts. Beat it. No pun intended. can get your wrench on the motor where it's slotted. You see with this motor, it's got this flat side. That's for the set screw. If you can get your wrench on that, sometimes you can turn the shaft inside the housing and kind of, instead of having to get your wheel puller out. That's another video using a wheel puller. When I get to it, I'll share it. That's 7/16. I've seen these held on with all kinds of things. 11/32 is probably the most common size, which is actually, I think, what we're going to be putting back on with that motor. And again, keep in mind, this is not a video for how to diagnose a bad fan motor. It's just for swapping it out. Let's say that thing's toast anyway. Alright, so these motors come with lots of different ways to mount. So a lot of your ring products, you would take and break or saw these studs off, and then this would sit down in the top of a ream. You'd have to take these screws out, and then you would screw through the frame of the ream system into the motor. But we're not putting it on a ream, but we're going to leave these in place because we don't want to expose. I think this goes inside the motor. Not going to check it. Always leave them in. It's unnecessary to take them out. Now, another key point. You've got weep holes. These are plugs in these motors, so they come out, and you want the side that's facing up to have the plugs in, because this motor is going to be facing down when it's mounted. So we want any water that could get in here or any moisture that forms in here to be able to escape. If you have this side plugged, the water can pool up in there and fry the motor out prematurely. And then you're just lining up these stud holes with what's there. Also, I've had a lot of people ask me why I cut this wire. This is obviously a ground. That's why it's green. But this is for when, and I haven't run into this in residential yet. This is for when the motor is mounted to something that's not grounded. So you can ground the motor with this wire. It's being attached to a metal frame, which is then being screwed in to here. Do it all the time, never had a problem. Never had any grounding issues. That's even what the instructions say that wire is for. We don't have anywhere to mount it anyway. I mean, yeah, can't pull it to the equipment ground. Alright, so our old motor was a 3-wire connection. You had your hot and your common, and then you had one capacitor wire. So you had a leg from the motor, load leg going to the contactor or the defrost board, and your other leg was going to the common terminal on the dual run capacitor. And then they had one wire for the capacitor going. So we're going to wire this up the same way, except this thing is going to have its own dedicated capacitor. We're going to leave the existing dual run capacitor in place. because there's nothing wrong with it. And these motors come with a nice little packet of screws and zip ties. I'm sure they all do. Well, I'll be fishing for that one. Alright, so these are 11/32. I usually do this on the back of my truck, but it's a little walk, so I figured I'd bring the motor over here and do it on top of this unit. And obviously, if this was a brand new piece of equipment and it had been taken care of, it would look a lot better. But we're just alright, 11/32. Blade back on. Alright, this fan had 2 set screws, so I'm only going to use one. I'm going to take the other one off. It's added weight. It's unnecessary. But you got a flat part in the shaft, and that's the part you want the set screw going towards, or being fastened into. And we're just going to take this other one out. Alright, and then the compressor's right under the fan motor here, so if it is touching the compressor, we'll have to get the reciprocating saw, cut the shaft off close to the motor. And no, it's not too loose. So now we're going to pull these wires back through. And by all means, if somebody has a, not already scratched up piece of equipment that's not got, house paint and years of mildew from being neglected all over it, don't do this on top of their unit. Fish these wires back through. There's a big foam gasket here. Factory had them run just right over the top of the coil. That's awesome. Just gonna get this shroud out of the way so I can actually see what I'm doing. So I took the screws out all the way around except the back so I can tilt the top of this panel up. Yep, that way I can get these wires through. Let's go. Okay. Come all into the compartments. I think that was it. Put this back on, or try to. Right. And I'll show you what we do with these reversing wires when we get to them. But you can pull them up through for now, or let them hang down. If you're gonna let them hang down, just make sure you've got a pair of needle nose pliers so you can grab them. I get it now. COVID. Some of these tools up. Pop all these screws back in. Alright, so up in here is where those wires come through. That's what it was from the factory. We got this piece of foam that we're going to insert back up in here where these wires come through. And then this is the plug that went to the old motor. And these are our wires from the fan motor. Let me get this foam back in first. Make sure that all of our wires coming through over here where this foam is. Okay, done with that. I'm gonna check our new capacitor, make sure it's reading what it's supposed to. It's reading 9.75. It's got a 3% tolerance, so 9.7 would be the lowest. And I find these, you know, capacitors that are made in certain countries tend to read on the lower end, brand new out of the box. Alright, and then the motor kit, they gave us a bunch of zip ties, so we're going to secure this capacitor, one of them. If you want to use sheet metal hanger strap to secure them, by all means. But I would suggest that you don't just let them hang there, because if they touch something and ground out, be back out here for another call. Bird is giving it hell. Alright, so now, just show you an easy way. We're going to take, we know that the brown wire coming up to this plug was the capacitor wire. So we're going to remove that out of here altogether. Oops. Unplug the common wire. This is not being used anymore. And then we're going to connect our fan wires, our line wires from the fan, to the wires that we're feeding the plug. Makes it pretty simple. Or you can track down where these wires go. That's a pretty simple thing to do. You can look at the wiring diagram, but you can track these wires back to where they go, which they're both going to the contactor on this gas pack, and you can run this wire all the way down there if you want to. With 220 volt single phase, I've never run into a situation where it matters, you know, which leg of the motor goes to which leg of power. They're both hot. They both make 240 volts between the two of them, and they both read 120 volt to ground. So there is no polarity issue when you're doing this. So don't be concerned about what color goes to what, as long as you know that you're working with your line and load wires. Alright, we're going to take all this wire, kind of button it up with a zip tie, get it where it's not just a big nest. Tuck it back out of the way here. Alright, there's that. Put the voltmeter up. Trash, 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 not trash. Yeah, and these old screws or nuts off the top of the fan, they're not going to serve a purpose, so just taking them off. Throwing them away, disposing of them. Alright, I'm going to turn the power on for this. I'm pretty sure there's a 5-minute delay at the thermostat. Power's on. So now we'll wait for it to kick back on. Alright, so the unit just kicked on and the fan is turning the wrong direction. It's pulling air through the top and I can feel it coming out down here close to my legs. So I'll go and disconnect the power. Actually, well, yeah. And that's what these wires sticking out are for. So you're going to take, and you've got orange and yellow. So we're going to take them apart, and we're going to run orange to yellow, and the same on this. And then we're going to zip tie that down. And if you want to take the time to figure out which way the motor turns based on the wiring, that's fine. I just don't do it because it's a lot easier trying to figure out which way the blade turns. Is it shaft end or is it lead end? You know, trying to decipher all that. You just wire it up, take the time to let it fire up, and reverse it if you need to. Thank you for calling Prime. This is Peter. Okay, what city are you in? Price. I know we're going to be up there tomorrow. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I can give you a call back here in the next hour or so and get you on the schedule. Yes, sir. You're welcome. No, you can't have my old $20 bill. Alright, so we're going to get out of here. If you like this video, it helps you, please give it a like and subscribe. If there's something specific you want to see, please post it in the comments, and the next time I run across it, I'll make sure to document it. See y'all next time.